Hello, fellow human light beings. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and this is the Thunder Wizard YouTube channel. This is a solar flash update for March 2nd, 2024, at least where I live on the planet. It's March 2nd. And today, this is an extremely important video. And it is imperative that you understand what it is we're going to be talking about. You may have to watch it more than once, but I really would like for you to take time to listen and turn down any internal static, because if you can comprehend and act upon what I'm going to talk about, you can make changes in yourself that would have been completely impossible from a 3D perspective. All right, so your soul and your external world are defined by how you choose to perceive them. But what we're going to be talking about is the quantum state, which is what you are. You are a quantum being. We'll talk about that. As always, question your reality and then change it. Welcome back to the channel. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. So we're going to get into some deep stuff today. Some stuff that came to me yesterday that has explained a lot of things that I was struggling with. Being in this liminal state that I'm in, liminal is a great word, go look it up. This liminal state that I say that because I just recently heard it. I don't know if I'd ever heard it before, but in this liminal state that I'm in, there's a real struggle between the reality that I'm experiencing on multi-dimensional levels with light beings, with higher dimensional extraterrestrials, all the stuff we've been talking about, the messages that have been coming to me for the past year and a half, and the increasing ability that I seem to have to be able to connect myself to those higher dimensional states and create realities and shift realities. Liminal being the in-between state where you think you're losing your mind because you have one reality that you know and you can experience, which is the third dimension. And then you have these higher dimensional realities that you can also experience, but you have to do it by choice, and then you have to choose to believe where you've been and what you've done. And there's a real struggle, and that's what this whole scenario is about, that we've been talking about this prism that's going to determine which version of the new earth you're going to live on. So very quickly, let's recap. So without going into all of the evidence and messages I and others have received, this is my latest understanding of what the solar flash event is. 3D at this moment is like this white light that has all of the different frequencies of color in it. The 3D earth that we live on right now, this is changing, by the way, changing rapidly by the moment, by the second. This is changing. But the 3D world as we knew it before it started to shift is that you have all these different potentials in one frequency. You can be the Buddha, and you can achieve enlightenment and shift out of this reality and achieve inner peace and all of that. Or you can be Jeffrey Dahmer, or even worse, the dark force Illuminati psychopath, people who are currently running this world and seeking to enslave everybody. In fact, seeking to create an Armageddon. They are actively, consciously seeking to create Armageddon on this planet. So in normal 3D, with all the different spectrums of light, in the white light, you can be Buddha or you can be sociopath, dark force, elite, and everywhere in between. And you're all still together in this one reality, which we call the third dimension. Third dimension is coming to an end. That is irreversible. It's already started to happen. It started in phases, but the last phase that has become irreversible was December 21st of 2022. That's when the first of the big solar flash events began hitting Earth, and the Earth is now in. People ask me, when is the solar flash coming? It's already here. It's instantaneous from the universe's perspective. From our perspective, it may take months or years. I can't imagine it'll take decades, but it can take a while. And that's what this prism is. We are in the prism, and in the prism, that white light is beginning to fracture into different frequencies. And so we have the choice now to choose which one we want. We have a little bit of time to choose, but make no mistake, the vibration that you decide is the world that you're going to end up living in, and then I don't know that you'll have as much freedom as you do now to choose. We're going to be talking about what you can do to take complete control over how to choose that, because that might be a challenging thought for you. I know it's a challenging thought for me. But in order to understand that, we need to understand the quantum nature of things. So that's what we're going to get into today. This is extremely important. Before we get into that, if you're new to the channel, I need you to subscribe, like, and comment. I do believe that this channel has been shadow banned for a while, which means that powers that be do things like remove subscribers. They remove videos without telling me, and they do things like change the views so that the algorithm won't pick up on the channel. That's the whole point of that. So I need your help. You got to subscribe, you got to like, you got to comment, and resubscribe. Check to see if you're still subscribed, and get this channel out. Share it on all of your all of your streams of social media, so that we can get this message out to people, because it's starting to get serious, starting to get real. And I need you to go to the free playlist page if you're new, because this channel isn't about you listening to me. I'm giving you tools you're not going to find anywhere else. These are quantum tools that will give you the ability to quantum shift. Those three playlists are the Maoshan Qigong, the Interdimensional Meditation, and the 12 Steps to 5D. Do at least one thing from at least one of those playlists every day. If you can do one thing from all three, so much the better every day. But whatever you can do on a daily basis, do. While you're doing that, do not wait. Go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. If you do that, you literally just press play on videos that I've recorded, and you just do what I tell you to do. It's real simple stuff. There's three ways that we shift, and you can attack it in one or all three. I do all three. It's the fastest way to do it. So you have the physical frequency that your body is, that can be shifted very easily by doing very simple physical movements that will stimulate all kinds of things I don't have time to talk about, but that will change your frequency. When you do that, then your psychological and your spiritual has an opportunity to shift, and you have to interact on those levels. But we're not going to do just one. So there's the physical, which is the Maoshan Qigong. Then there's the interdimensional revolution. Excuse me, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. There's the Maoshan Qigong, which is one playlist. The other one is the the interdimensional meditation. Sorry, I've got too many things going on in my head. That is going to shift your frequency on a spiritual level. And then the third one is the 12 steps to 5D. That will shift your frequency on a psychological level. Now, all of these must shift in order for you to successfully shift. So usually what happens is people will do one and the other two will sort of balance themselves out. But when you're doing all three, you got a much better chance of having a complete shift. So check out all three of those playlists. And the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, that has all of those in it and more. It's the elite level of those three playlists. If you just do that, you got nothing to worry about. It also keeps me from having to go live in a cardboard box somewhere. This is my entire life. I've devoted the rest of my life to getting this message to as many people as possible and to developing the science and the ability to do it. And so when you subscribe, not only do you get all that, but I get to take 24 hours a day and focus on this work, which is, the ultimate of my life work. So subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong at thunderwizard.com. All right, back to what it is we're talking about. A quantum shift, which is the solar flash. Your soul and your external world are defined by how you choose to perceive them. I do have stuff for us to look at here. The quantum nature of the self. So we're going to talk about that. Again, do me a favor and just look at this for just a second. Because this is this is a visual representation of what we're going to be talking about. So the real question is how. You see all those light, those different colors. And at the top you have the violet, which is the highest perfect ideal of ascension. And then you have the red at the bottom, which is the Apocalypse 3D. Very quickly, I'm not attached to this to be true. I'm okay if I turn out to be wrong about this. But based on all of the communications I've received, based on all of the visions I've experienced, based on my personal reality, as well as other people, not just the New Age people who have been saying it and intellectually know it and spout it. How they got that information, I don't know. A lot of it's conflated. Some of it is partially true and partially false. But people that I personally know and work with who are doing the interdimensional meditations, they are getting direct messages from higher dimensional beings. They're getting vision states, and they're all coming to me, and I'm compiling it and comparing it to what I'm experiencing. And this is what I believe will be true, is that there's going to be multiple versions of Earth available depending on where you choose to vibrate. And at the lowest level, there is a version of Earth at the lowest frequency where the deep state wins. Everything that they're trying to accomplish works. And so just to let you know, hypothetically speaking, I don't have any proof for any of this, but just to let you know, the unprecedented weather events, I do not believe are natural events. There's technology to make these things happen. The deep state, according to Dr. Stephen Greer, have already tried to send asteroids to Earth, and they had it set up so that it would skim the oceans and create tidal waves which would kill billions of people. The only reason they didn't accomplish it was because the ETs got in there with their technology and stopped it. But the weather events that are happening in California, the fires that have been going on for years, all of the destruction of there's no coincidence, the destruction of all of the food processing plants, the plastics plants, all of these things, and what's the potential of the complete failure of the economic system. These are not coincidences. These are not random occurrences. And the fact that these are all happening at the same time, these are, according to many, the theory is that this is a coordinated attack. There's a reason why Jeff Bezos wants to live in space. And there's a reason why the Facebook guy wants to live underground and has already built a bunker city underground. It's because they're planning on completely destroying the world. And just to be clear, they believe that if they do this, that Jesus will come. This is how distorted their thinking is. So that is the potential of the apocalypse 3D, and the people who survive will be like cockroaches running around underground trying to escape the fake alien invasion. These same deep state people have the technology to create UFOs and do everything that you see in Star Wars and Star Trek, and they're going to do that to you if they get their chance. So that whole apocalypse scenario is one scenario that can happen if you're vibrating at that level. Now the good news is you got to be vibrating on a very low level for that to happen. So if you're watching this, almost certainly that's not something you need to worry about. And at the other end of the Ascension 5D, if we use this symbol of the rainbow, then we're talking about the violet at the top, which represents the highest awareness. And in that world, we're going to be less physically dense. We're going to be in a continuous state of Kundalini bliss, DMT bliss. We are going to be able to manifest our thoughts instantaneously. We will have instant connection to all levels of spiritual realities, different dimensions. We'll be able to speak with higher dimensional beings in our conscious mind. We'll be able to speak to people who have passed on. We'll be able to create reality just by thinking about it. There won't be any need for banks, governments, doctors, medications. Everything will be done simply from consciousness level, and there won't be any fear, there won't be any anger, there won't be any inauthenticity, because at that level of reality there isn't such a thing. Nothing evil exists at that level. That's at the highest level. So we're going to have at least those two possibilities, and then all of the other colors of the rainbow in between. Generally speaking, this is what I believe is going to be the case. I'm happy to be wrong, but more and more of the ETs are very, very adamant that this is where we're going. But what's important to know is that this is not arbitrary. Unlike some versions of Christianity, that like Calvinism, that says that God's already decided who's going to heaven and who's going to hell, and there's nothing you can do about it. Unlike that kind of arbitrary reality, when this shift hits, you don't have to just wait around to see where you go. You absolutely have control. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. So I want you to pay very close attention. It's very deep stuff, but those of you who are doing interdimensional meditation, it's going to make a lot of sense. And for those of you like me, if you're doing the interdimensional meditation, you're communicating with these beings, you feel like you're losing your mind, well, this will help you regain your understanding. Because once we understand, it makes things a lot easier. So I'm going to shine some light on that, and it has to do with understanding about quantum physics and what that means. So let's go to our list already. So the quantum nature of the self. So the soul exists in multiple states simultaneously. So quantum physics is at the level of particles, really, really, really tiny particles. This ginger beer soda that I have, this kombucha soda, really good stuff. The bottle here is in a quantum state, even though I'm able to use it to hold my beverage. This is in a quantum state at the deepest molecular level. So what is it that makes this thing work? Again, we're just dealing with armchair physics. So, but the idea is that I look at that bottle with an expectation, and the bottle, the molecules of the bottle hold itself together because that's my expectation. So you've heard about the very famous experiments with light. There's been multiple experiments throughout the decades, and without going into all of that, is light a wave or a particle? And so when you do an experiment to determine whether or not light is a wave or a particle, it will act in accordance to your expectation. So the person who's doing the, and they've tried all kinds of different ways to try and, it's really kind of silly, but trying to block the light particles from knowing that they're being observed, because it's all about if the light is being observed. But of course, you can't do that. So no matter what they do to try and make sure that the light doesn't know it's being observed, of course it always knows. Light always knows what it's, and this is important, it knows when it's being observed. So if you set up the experiment to see if light is a particle, light will be a particle. If you set up the experiment to see if light is a wave, light will be a wave. Not only that, but the most recent experiments have concluded that light will go back in time and change the conditions so that it will look as if it's always been a particle or it's always been a wave. But it's when the light is about ready to hit the target that it goes, oh, you want me to be a particle? Hang on, let me reverse time. And it goes back and it changes everything so that it's been a particle the whole time. Oh, you want me to be a wave? Hold on. Reverses, goes back into time, changes all of the evidence. This explains the Mandela effect, which we'll have to talk about at another time. But this is why history is changing itself, and there's some remnants of the old history and the new history, and this is all understanding this quantum state. All right, so light, when it's not being observed, is both and neither. It is a particle and a wave and neither, all at the same time. It is complete potential possibilities. And that's what this reality is that we're in. It's nothing more than a potential possibility that manifests. It crystallizes itself into what you see when you look around. When you look around, it turns into what you're expecting it to be. And then when you go deep to find out, it will show you evidence that it's always been that way. No, this bottle was made by glass that was created, 5 years ago, and a glass, whatever. Nope. Reality is that every nanosecond, this glass bottle is re-manifesting itself based on my expectation and your expectation. All right, so that's how light works. Now, your soul, you are a light being. Your soul is made up of light, pure light. That's why when people die and they have the near-death experience, what's the first thing almost all of them say? They're in a tunnel of light. There's light at the end of the tunnel. They go to the light. Unless you're one of these fear-bound people who believe this, by the way, this deep state nonsense that you think is spirituality, but you've been gaslit into believing that there are false beings of light trying to trap you. By the way, do you know when that whole belief came up, the whole belief in the archons? That came up during the Roman Empire. At the same time that the Roman Empire was hijacking the Messianic Jewish religion. Why did they do that? Because they were trying desperately to keep the Jews from continuing to revolt. They were trying to pacify them. And so they hijacked the religion. They were Jewish elite that were working with the Roman elite, and they were looking to find ways to keep these pesky Jews from continuously rebelling. And just to let you know, the thing that the Jews were doing that was so threatening to the Romans was that part of their religion was that they could not use currency that had a face of somebody on it. So they couldn't use Roman coins that had the face of the emperor on it. They couldn't do that because to do that would have been to worship a false idol. Why is that a problem? It's not a religious problem, it's an economic problem. Because if you don't use the approved money, then you can't be controlled. And the less people, if you want to do business with Jewish people back then, you had to do it with something else other than money. That was a problem. That's the whole thing in the Bible about the money changers. They would change the money so that when you went to go give offerings at the temple, it wouldn't have the face of a Roman god, a Roman emperor on it. That's why. You want to know why the Christian religion was created? It was for that reason. It was about money. That's why Jesus said, give unto God what is God, and give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. He was saying, pay your taxes with Roman money. You don't know. You think that's spiritual. Oh yeah, no, I give to the world and then I give to God. That's not what that verse meant at all. And that's why it was so revolutionary. And that's why the Jews didn't convert to Christianity. Because their supposed Messiah was saying, pay your taxes with Roman money. And that they knew that it wasn't their Messiah because it didn't coincide with their belief that you can't worship a false idol. You can't use money that has a Roman emperor on it. You guys got to understand this. It was at this time that the Gnostic religions came into being. When you listen to a Gnostic, what do they tell you? They say, oh, the Christian religion's been hijacked by the religionists, and, no, the true Christian religion. Nope. It's the same thing. It's just a different understanding of the same thing. And that's who came up with the belief that there were these false beings of light trying to trap you and keep you reincarnated. That's where that originated from. It evolved into that. And remember what I keep saying. The people who run from the light, that's what you're told, right? Don't go into the light. It's a trap. Who wants you to stay enslaved? The people that are going to tell you that want you to stay enslaved are going to create religions that will keep you enslaved. The belief that beings of light have the desire to harm and enslave you is a lie that has been manufactured for over 2,000 years. And as I say, the only beings who run from the light are cockroaches. So whenever somebody comes to you and says, don't go into the light, it's a false trap of reincarnation, they're just reinterpret it because they're telling you, go be a cockroach and go run from the light and hide under the floorboard somewhere and then just, eat garbage. You can't, anyway. Light is quantum. I digress. Light is quantum. You are a light being. You are always in a quantum state. You are all things and no things at the same time. So when this realization hit me, because it was, I was watching some movie and it got explained in a way and I had this awareness. Let me just read to you what I've wrote here. So the quantum physics of the self. So a particle exists in two states simultaneously. So let's start with that. In one state, it's black. In another state, it's white. And in another state, it is both white and black, and neither white or black, all at the same time. And it can't decide, listen to me very carefully, this quantum particle can't decide what state it wants to be in until someone looks at it. And the moment that it is observed from an outside perspective, the moment that somebody looks at the particle, it becomes black or white, a particle or a wave. Now, your soul is light. So this means this is true of your soul. Your soul, this is why Zen talks about going into this Zen state of emptiness. This is why Taoism talks about going to the unformed initial pure state of consciousness. This is why, the Vedic religion has the same kind of understanding, that this idea is you're going back to the original essence of nothingness. Because nothingness doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means that it has every single possible existence happening all at once. It just hasn't crystallized into any form yet. So to go back to nothing, to go to emptiness, means to go to everything, having all power to do anything and everything. So your soul is in this state all the time, as well as all of the molecules in your body, as well as your identity of who you are, your past, your karma, your future, your destiny. All of these things are in a quantum state. Again, this is why the Mandela effect is happening. The Mandela effect is happening because we are going through this prism. And because we're going through this prism, different pasts are now emerging. At the same time, Kennedy's car. Well, I'll make a whole video on that. Kennedy's car. Kennedy was not, I know, I was alive. I was born literally just before he was assassinated. So my entire childhood was completely bombarded with films and pictures of that assassination. And I promise you, it was only a four-seater car, like 2 bench seats. It wasn't 6. Now it's 6. There's still some remnants of the 2-seat bench as opposed to the 3-bench car. So there's 2 pasts there because we're in a quantum state. We're shifting. So the past, we're looking through the past through a prism, which is creating these different pasts in our history. Got me? All right. So where are we? Your soul exists in multiple states simultaneously. One state is in multiple 3D frequencies, the apocalypse, the normal 3D, or the 5D heaven. The other self states are in different dimensions altogether. There's a part of you that's a deity. There's a part of you that's an extraterrestrial. There's a part of you that's pure spirit. There's a part of you that's a human, maybe in another timeline, on another planet. And in other states, the soul has not decided what it wants to be yet. So when someone looks at you, looks at the self, you choose a manifested state. Okay, so let's go back to the particle itself. So particle exists in two states simultaneously. It's black in one state, it's white in another. In another state, it is neither and both, and it doesn't know what it wants to be yet until somebody looks at it. And the moment somebody looks at it, it decides one of those states. It creates a self state that you can measure and experience. So we're born, we are light, which means we are in a quantum state. When you are born into this human body, your parents look at you. Now somebody is looking at your soul in a quantum state. and you have to decide what state you're going to be in. So unfortunately, it's a passive experience for the baby. So the baby doesn't really make any conscious decision. The baby reacts to how he's being looked at. If your mother, for example, by the way, this is the whole, Jesus and Mary, pictures of Mother Mary looking at Jesus, or that Michelangelo sculpture where she's like twice his size and she's on her lap and he's dying and she's looking at him. When you look at the face of those, she will have a blank look on her face with a slight smile. And that is the ultimate maternal gaze, where she's looking on her child and she sees the child as nothing but pure potential. And when she looks on him with love, the child looks back, sees himself, and then decides to become an identity. And of course, if the mother is loving and kind and healthy, quote unquote, the child is going to grow up to be a healthy, successful person. Because at that quantum state, it chose who it was. Now, when you talk to that child later in life as an adult, you'll find out that's just who they are. They'll say this is their character. But they didn't come up with that character. It was a reaction. The same is true for Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer could have been the Buddha had his mother looked on him with the gaze that Mother Mary looks on Jesus in those paintings. If Jeffrey Dahmer, when he was in that emptiness state, if she had looked at him and seen his perfection with love, he would have then seen that, her looking at, and he would have become that. He wouldn't have done any of the things that he did. That's not how she looked at it. If you do any research about Jeffrey Dahmer, you'll find out that his mother was, at the very least, had borderline personality disorder and or narcissistic personality disorder. She was extremely mentally ill and was incredibly abusive, and her projection onto him was horrible. She hated him. So as an infant, when he looked up into her eyes, that's what he saw. And when he saw that, he reacted to that look, and that's who he became. This is how powerful this is. This is why, I can tell you're blue in the face. If you want all the power in the world, subscribe to this, get rid of all the alcohol and the drugs and the this and the that, and get rid of the self-hatred, the devaluation, get rid of the fear, get rid of the victim mentality. I can tell you all that till I'm blue in the face, but if you don't have the ability to decide to shift to the quantum state I'm pointing at, there's nothing I can do. You must do it. That's why I keep telling you guys, listening to me talk is meaningless. It would only mean something if you were my infant child and I could look you in the face and give you all that energetically. Then you could take it and react and respond, and you could be that. But you're not an infant anymore. You're at very least, a young adult. You might be as old as I am or older. So that reaction to your being looked at has already happened, unless you become aware of who you truly are. Then everything can change. Every single person that works with me, especially those that work with me one-on-one, but every single one of the people that work with me and are doing the interdimensional meditation, they are all transforming. I mean, there's transformation that would be the equivalent of 50 lifetimes. There are people I'm working with now that if I were to show you their picture now and their picture 6 months ago, you wouldn't even know they're the same person. complete, total physical transformation, psychological, emotional transformation. And the reason for that is, when you do the interdimensional meditation, you go back to that quantum state. And in that quantum state, there are beings there that look at you. And they don't see you the way your parents saw you. They see you from a soul level. And you react to that like a particle. You're being observed now from a higher dimensional perspective, and you begin to shift. What ends up happening is that when you come back into your physical body after the meditation, your 3D self that has already been formed, that has reacted to how you got seen as a kid, that part of you then has to interact with this new quantum version of yourself, and you think you're going crazy. You're a particle that's in two states simultaneously. So remember, there's a state, quantum state, there's a particle that is black in one state, it's white in another state, and in a third state, it's both and neither, and can't decide what it is until somebody looks at it. And then it reacts to that and becomes whatever the expectation is. So when you come back into your third dimensional body, your brain has this expectation of who you are. Your brain has this expectation of what physical reality is. Your brain has this expectation of what the universe is, especially if you have bought into the idea that there are false beings of light trying to trap you. That part of you is trying to solidify your quantum state into, this limited victim mentality, tiny little being that gets destroyed and eaten up and reincarnated and consumed. That is a state of being that you choose to be in. It's a reaction to how somebody looked at it. So the goal is to get to the place where you decide what state you want to be in. And I'm here to tell you that there is infinite numbers of states you can choose to be in. And you could be your deity self. You could be a tiny little human who ends up like a cockroach running around trying to avoid the deep state fake alien spacecraft trying to destroy you. It's a state of being that you choose to manifest as. That's how powerful you are. So getting through, it's deep. So those of you who are doing the interdimensional meditation and it feels like you're going crazy, that's why. It makes perfect sense. You're in that liminal state where you're neither and both, and you're trying to choose one. It's very tough. I mean, I'm going through it as well. Very challenging. That's why if you watch my videos around June of 2022, go and look for them. You'll find a couple of them. There's one or two where I'm looking into the camera and I'm tearing up and I'm saying to people, I need your positive thoughts for me because I'm really having a tough time. There are times when I say I can't make any videos for a week. I got to get myself together. My body was literally coming apart. I couldn't lift my right arm. I was in so much pain because I was in a huge struggle between my human 3D self and the 5D self that the ETs were saying, here's who you are. Here's how we see you. And all that power behind it. And I was in that liminal state and I didn't know who I was and I was losing my mind. So if you're in that experience, that's why. So, when we can get to the place and we have the power to choose how we want to see ourselves. So in my experience with the light beings is that once you get past a certain point with them, they stop telling you who you are, and then they start saying, I don't know, you tell me who you are. They start to look at you differently. They start to look at you like you're beyond anything I can imagine at this point. So I'm looking at you to see who you're going to be. And you get to go beyond even their expectations. And that's a weird trip in and of itself. To have light beings look at you like you're, like you're a deity, and they're like in awe at just being in your presence, because they're like, you're more than we ever comprehended. When a light being comes and gives you, as they have to me and other people I'm working with, and they come and they tell you, something like, I'm making something up now, you're the being that has created all of the different galaxies in the universe, and you've mastered, and they start talking to you like you're bigger than God, and they look up at you. And they start worshiping you. That's a weird place to be. When you're just this little human and you're meditating and you're off in higher dimensions, and these incredibly powerful beings of light start to worship you like you're a deity. That's weird. That is hard on the sense of self. You would think that it would be a great boost to the ego. It's not. It's not at all. It's if you stay in the third dimensional state, it is absolutely traumatizing, until you understand that everything is in a liminal state. And when you're in that state where you're neither and both at the same time, you can be literally anything and everything. If you allow yourself to respond, instead of how people are looking at you, you look at yourself with an expectation. When you look at yourself with an expectation of, I'm the most powerful being in the universe, you become the most powerful being in the universe. And then the deities clasp their hands together and bow before you. There is no other place in the universe where this is happening. This is why the gods and the angels and the light beings wish they could be us, because of what this solar flash event is doing to us. Not what it's going to do. It's already doing it. It already started. That's what's happening here. Those beings are not inside that prison. They're looking at us from the outside. We are in the prism. We are the ones that are in the liminal state, shifting between different states. There's no other place in the universe where this is going on, to my knowledge. That's why all beings, there's every single advanced society in the multiverse is completely just sitting around in bleachers at Earth watching what's going on. Because this is a birth of something new that's never happened before in the entire multiverse, ever. The beings that are going to come out of this are going to be beings the multiverse has never seen before. That's you, if you choose it. All right, so the soul exists in multiple states simultaneously. One state in the multiple 3D frequencies, the apocalypse, the normal 3D, the heaven. In other self states, it's in different dimensions. You're a deity, you're an ET, you're a spirit. In other states, the soul has not decided what it wants to be. When someone looks at the self, it then chooses whatever its manifested state is. Whether you choose to be happy, free, or enslaved or enslaved as a limited being depends on how you choose to react to the expectation of your observer. So you have a choice. You didn't have a choice as a baby. Sorry. But that's over. So, pull up your big boy, big girl pants. That's over. I can't tell you how many people, there are people my age and older who are still operating from, they're still upset, they're still angry, they're still traumatized because they're still responding to how they were looked at. This is what we call abuse. People were abused as kids. It means that you were looked at by somebody who projected negativity onto you. And you took it in, and you accepted it, and then you manifested it. And now you're complaining about it for the rest of your life. And what you don't realize is that every single nanosecond you are choosing to react to how you're being looked at. And so the person looking at you has all the control over who you are. This is why therapy doesn't really work that well. But what does work is spiritual practice like Qigong and meditation and the 12 steps. Those two things will change you because you will gain an ability to decide how you want to manifest. Let me give you another couple examples. This is not just, spirituality here. This is quantified, documented. People that have multiple personalities. Some of the personalities will have diabetes. Some of them will have blue eyes. Others will have, there are people that exist that can, when they shift into another personality, their eye color will change. Documented. They'll be in a state where they are diabetic. And then they'll shift into another personality, they're not diabetic anymore. They'll shift into a personality and they'll be, deathly allergic to peanuts. If they eat peanuts, they'll go into anaphylactic shock and die. And then they'll shift into another personality and they can eat all the peanuts they want. That's not possible. Unless these are different self states. This is a being that's fractured itself into different self states. It's choosing to react to how it's being seen. Other documented things, if you have identical twins that have the identical DNA structure, and we were told that DNA is a blueprint. It says, how you're going to die, how long you're going to live, what diseases you're going to have, et cetera, et cetera. And so we've thought that was true for the longest time. And now we're finding out after, following people, identical twins, that what we find out is that, by the time they're middle-aged, their DNA has changed. And it changes depending on how they choose to respond to life. If one of them chooses to be, a victim mentality minded person full of fear and anger, their DNA changes, and next thing you know, they've got cancer. And it's in their DNA. Their DNA has that possibility for that kind of cancer. And the other one doesn't have that. But they chose to respond to life in a positive way, with belief and trust in the universe, and they're happy and successful. They don't have that DNA trait. So it's time to give up, that's just who I am. You are who you choose to be. The question is, do you have the power to decide who you're going to be? And the fastest way, in my experience, to do that is interdimensional meditation. Start interacting with ETs and allow their vision of you to penetrate. And then allow yourself to passively react to that. And you'll begin to shift. You'll begin to change. And it won't be easy for everybody. It'll be emotionally challenging, to be sure. Because dying to who you think you are is just that. It's death. It's not easy. Nobody likes dying. Nobody enjoys it. But then, ideally we can get to the place where the ETs, the light beings, go, I don't know who you are. You're beyond who I thought you were. And then you get to decide. Hope that makes sense. Yeah. All right. So I babbled long enough. Again, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, like, and comment. Go to the free playlists on the YouTube channel. Click on the Maoshan Qigong, Interdimensional Meditation, 12 Steps to 5D. While you're doing that, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. You will benefit, and I get to eat, because we're still doing the money thing here in this version of 3D. And I just want to, again, if there's people out there, again, this is why. You want to know why you need a teacher? People think they can do this by themselves. You talk to a bunch of new age nowheres and they'll say, oh, I don't need a teacher, I'm my own teacher. Well, the problem is that you're responding to how you've been looked at. And it's very likely you don't know that you have the ability to change how you manifest. So what ends up happening, this is what therapists do, this is what all spiritual teachers do, is spiritual teachers look at you, but they have a different expectation than you have of yourself. They see your potential, what you can be. And when they look at you, this is what happens. What happens is the student fights with the teacher. Those of you who've been my student and you know, you always want to pick fights with me about things. What I call unconscious resistance. What you're resisting is me seeing you from a higher perspective. If you allow yourself to be seen, then you will shift. This is why traditionally, like in India, students have pictures of their teacher on their altar. And so you think they're worshiping their teacher. Maybe even they think they're worshiping their teacher. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is when they're in the altar, they're in the liminal state because they know they're meditating or they're connecting to higher dimensions or God or whatever, however they look at it. It's a liminal state where they're all possibilities at once. They look at their teacher looks at them through the picture, and then they respond to that. And that's why just, chanting to your guru, if you truly have a non-attached teacher who doesn't have an ego, you will change, you will shift. Because you're allowing yourself to be looked at in a different way, and then your essence responds and becomes that. Same thing in relationships, especially with men. When women look at men with respect, and the man sees in the woman's face their respect for him, their admiration, they change. I mean, I've known guys. I knew a guy, when I was in college and, as a young adult, we had a theater company together, and he was absolutely just like a player. I mean, women were objects to him. And then he met a woman who looked at him a certain way. And when she looked at him, and then he turned into the most devoted husband and father to this day, 30 years later. This is the power of somebody's gaze on you. If it's not a projection, or even if it is, if you respond to that. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. This is why it's important to have teachers. This is why I make myself available to work with students. If you want that, go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe at any one of the apprenticeship options. And again, just follow my instructions, and that scenario will happen with you, and you'll battle back and forth, and you'll do whatever you're going to do. But this is how we grow. Somebody has to initially look at us with a different expectation. And then when we decide, we have to pick between how we were viewed as kids and how we're being viewed now by, whether it's light beings or a teacher or a husband or a wife. That is what growth is all about. It's your decision. And then once you get past that, you no longer need to have somebody look at you to have your quantum state change. When you get to look at yourself and become whatever you want, then you become the teacher. Then even the gods themselves get on their knees and bow to you. You understand? All right. Let's see if we've got any comments or questions. Doesn't look like it. I'm going to refresh the page just in case. Are you all just stunned by all of this, or is there nobody here? Okay, no, there's nobody's got anything to say. So be it then. We will leave things as they are. Thank you, my friends, for showing up, and thank you especially to any and all of you who are doing any kind of work to transform yourself. The slightest little thing you do, you know, being kind to an animal, saying a nice thing to somebody, not saying something mean, being kind to yourself, that is the most important thing that you can do. And when you do that, everybody benefits, including me. I benefit when you do anything to evolve. And I and all of the other beings in the universe, we all thank you for that. Okay, very good. Ariel says, hi, great. I'm looking forward to your emails. That should be very interesting. Hi, Thundra. Very good. That's it. All right, guys. Thank you so much. As always, if I don't get beamed up to the Starship Enterprise, and or if the flash don't come, and or I don't change my liminal state and leave this third dimensional frequency altogether, if none of those things happen, I will see you all very soon. Please take very good care of yourselves, and know that I love you and appreciate your essence, and I will see you all very soon. See you next time.